Hello, patrons. Welcome back to the studio. Today, we are going to be creating this winter scene. Look at that. Oops, if I get it set for you. This winter scene. I had so much fun creating this one, and I hope you do too. So let's get started. I've taken the Crescent Creative Products Canvas Textured boards, the 8x10 size, and I did cut that in half. And that's what I'm going to be creating today's project on. Now, using only those products that came in my November 2021 Paletteful Packs box, which were the panels, and then these Amsterdam acrylic paints, which I have never used before. So I've used acrylic paints before, but not these acrylic paints. So I am very much looking forward to giving these a try. And then, of course, there is the Posca paint marker, which I have a plan for that, but it's not going to come in till the very end. Now, I cut the panel in half because the only things I have at my disposal that came in my box to put paint on this piece is, the Robert Simmons Sapphire number 8 filbert and this palette knife. Well, normally I like to get my backgrounds in, and I like very nice, smooth. I don't like a lot of brush strokes. I like my paintings to be nice and smooth. And this is not really going to give me that on a larger size canvas. So I did cut this down, but I still don't think that I'm going to quite get my background the way I would want. If I was doing this and not sticking to just the supplies that came in the box, I would certainly grab a much larger brush to put in my background. However, that's not what we're doing today. Today, after looking at the prompts that Paletteful put out for this month, abstract landscape was one of them. And I thought, how perfect would that lend itself to just having the palette knife and this small brush? And then I started to think about, well, what kind of scene? And then I had woke up yesterday morning to a light dusting of snow on the ground. I love snow. I've said that before. So that inspired me. I was like, you know what? I can do an abstract winter scene. So that's what I'm going to do today. The palette that I'm using, I'm just using the lid that came, or the insert from how the paints were packaged, that plastic. I'm just flipping that over and I'm using this. So even if you didn't have a palette, because I have my great big glass Posh palette, my New Wave Posh palette, and that's what I normally use when I do with acrylics. But you could use anything. Do you have a styrofoam plate at home? If you have a paper plate, you're going to want to be careful because the paper plate is going to want to suck all the moisture out of your acrylic paint, and it will dry so much faster. If you had a coated plate, then that wouldn't. Or another thing that you could do was take, if you only had a paper plate and that's what you had and that's what you wanted to use, take that paper plate, get it nice and wet, stick it in another container so that the plate is nice and wet. Then put, not dripping, not pulling, just let the plate be wet and absorb some water. So that way there, when you put your acrylic paints on it, it won't suck the moisture out of them and they won't dry as fast. So that's just a little tip. All right, for today, let's see. I am going to have to try to mix up colors because, of course, I just have this basic primary set. And I know I'm going to be needing some white because I said winter. And then I really want to make some purple color. I'm thinking like some purples, maybe purplish gray. So I'm going to take some of my blue and some of my red. I'm going to put them side by side because I'm actually going to mix these together and see what I can get for a nice purple. And then, of course, I will need black because I'm going to gray some of this out, and we'll see how that works. Now, of course, I'm probably going to have to put more paint out, but this is just for me to get an idea to start. Okay. So first, and normally I hate mixing with a palette knife, but again, using what we got. I'm just going to mix these up and see what kind of purple we get. And I think I have a lot more red than I actually need. So I'm just going to bring in some more blue because that's going to be that purple is going to lean very red, and I don't want it to lean more to the red side. I want it to lean more towards blue. So more blue. Now I will say that at first mixing, like just touching these with the palette knife, they feel very creamy. Very creamy. There we go. See, there's a nice, getting a more muted purple, I guess. More blue than, and of course I can adjust my value or the saturation by bringing in some white and lightening that up, or even adding the black and deepening it up. Okay. I love that this little tray has that lid because it makes it easy for me to just kind of scrape this paint off that palette knife. Just trying to make sure it's all mixed well, and I'm not going to get spots that are red or blue when I put it down. Okay, so there's some purple. We'll see. We shall see. All right, grabbed a towel. You'll probably see me get this good and nasty so I can keep this knife cleaned off. This palette knife, which is by Art Alternatives, is really, it's really quite flexible. Now, I'm going to want to start on my background, but I also think I need some gray. I'm going to mix up a little bit of gray. And I'm going to do that right here. And if I get a little bit of this red or blue or, the purple, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. I just need a couple different values. So I'm going to go abstract. I'm not going to be paying, I know I have an idea in mind, but I'm not looking for, this is not realism. I'm not looking for it to look like a picture. I am looking for it to give you the impression or the feel of it being a winter landscape. And so I'm going to definitely want to get a few values that are gray. And I think we're going to go with another one. And I'm sorry, I keep trying to slide this. Let me do it this way. Let's slide some of this over here. And I want another spot where I have a lighter gray. Even lighter. And I usually take up so much room on my palette, so I don't know how this little tiny space is going to work out for me, but hey, it's an adventure. Let's have fun. Okay, so you see there now I have black, gray, lighter gray, and then my white. We'll take that idea, and I want to get started with the background of what will be my sky. I'm thinking a sky, throw in like mountain right here. Maybe there's a tree line in the distance, and then it's just snow coming forward, right? Very abstract. Just going to keep it nice and loose. So to start with, I want to get, and I'm going to need more white than that. And I'm probably going to put the white. In fact, I'm going to put some of this white for my base, just to get it started so that my other paints, when I add it on here, there we go, they'll just kind of move and flow on the surface a little easier and smoother. So I'm just going to turn this slightly so that I can make this work. And just with that palette knife, moving that paint around to get my, and you see I had some of that dark on there and it moved. I don't mind. It's just going to add to the effect in my sky with clouds, and I'm not fussing about it. I'm not panicking if something gets smeared and looks a little wonky, like it's okay. This is just, let's play and have fun. And I've got to say, wow, the way that those Amsterdam acrylics are sliding across the surface of this board. One, the acrylics feel very, like I said before, very creamy. And two, yeah, it's very easy to work. This is so far very easy to work with. All right, I'm just going to go again with the white, and I'm going to end up doing this one more time. But as I continue down, I'm not going to want this node to be as gray, you know, if I get gray in it. So I'm going to work this one more time. Then I'll probably clean my palette knife and do a final, which will be my snow for my foreground. So we're just going to keep moving this paint around. Now, if you don't have a palette knife and you're wanting to do this, that's not a problem. Just grab a paintbrush. What I would be using if I was doing this and not sticking to supplies that came, you know, in my art supply box, my subscription box, I would definitely be doing this with a nice flat brush, probably at least a 3/4 inch, no smaller than a 1/2 inch flat brush. And that is what I would be using to put this on. And as I continue the next steps, what I would be doing was just taking some of my darker values and just blending it through with that brush. And however it blends, it blends. You'll see natural clouds and things just kind of form for you that it just does it on its own. All right, so again, one more, and then we'd have the whole canvas with a base, or the board. This is a canvas textured board. So one more, and we'll have this all covered with paint. I will say that as I'm starting to get some of this on here, I'm noticing that the board's got a little bit of a curve to it. So is that from, you know, the moisture of the paints? Most likely. Ooh. Oh, that's okay. I just accidental texture there, and I think I like that and can work with it. All right, so I'm just moving that up. Oh yeah, that's interesting. When I touched and lifted, see if I can do it again. You see all that texture there. That could make for some interesting effects. Okay, so now I have that on, and I'm going to want to work pretty quickly because I really want to work while it stays wet. Just see what I can do. So I'm going to take a little bit of my lighter gray value, and I'm even pulling it in with some more white, so I'll lighten it up just a little bit more. All right, and it's snowing, right? I'm thinking in my mind like snowing. It's really kind of snowing hard. I want to kind of push this stuff to the background. I'm not going to be super fancy. I'm not fussing with exact shapes. I'm just letting everything happen naturally. I'm just tapping this on with the palette knife. It's going to, you know, it's going to touch some spots. It's going to miss others, and that's okay. And just have fun. I'm making my sky that's going to be really, you know, snowing. There's going to be lots of gray clouds and dark areas in the, you know, in the distance. This is going to be my furthest points on this painting. Just continuing to put some of that in. Now I know that my mountains are probably going to come up right about here. I'll bring one down and perhaps bring it here and come over. And I'm thinking that there is a reference photo, and I will try to pop that in for you guys. There is a reference that I found on Pexels, and I thought, oh, that could actually lend itself pretty good to what I was envisioning. So now I have some layers of the gray. I actually want to come back in with a little bit more of the white. Grab some of that with my palette knife and just kind of go over some of these areas. Some of it's going to blend. I'm going to get, you know, I'll get a blending of the two. So I'm just going to have a myriad of like different values on here. But in the end, once all the rest of the painting comes in and this gets really pushed back, this is just going to make a nice winter sky back there. And I am letting them mix. I definitely want it to be, you know, gray, not pure titanium white. And that's why you see it like this is starting to mix. I'm going to just keep grabbing different values, blending this paint up on here. Because when I come back in with snow, the snow that's kind of closest to us, that I'm going to want to be more with my titanium white, right? It's closer to us. It's going to be brighter. I'm trying to also keep my lines kind of, or my marks kind of rounded. Thinking snow clouds, right? I don't want hard edges. I don't want sharp lines. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I tend to spend so much time on my backgrounds and my skies, and then it's like, you know, you paint the rest of that painting and you go, well, I'm not even, you know, the viewer's not even paying attention to that back there. And you spent so much time on it and we're so worried about all the fine details being just right. And yet that's way back there. Like that is so far back in your painting that we're not even really paying attention to that anymore. I still do it though. I do. I spend so much time concentrating on what needs to be going on back here. So again, just bringing in, this is kind of looking all of a similar value. But I just wanted to bring in a few areas that maybe are a little bit lighter. All right. Now I'm thinking that well, maybe even we get a little darker on this side. Yeah. Maybe the storm's coming across this way. So what I did there was I had that darker color. And as I set it down, I kind of push forward. See, I push forward, it gets darker. But then if I come back and I pull backwards, I kind of pull a little bit of this lighter color back over it. So I want this edge to gradually start to get lighter and lighter as it goes. So just that pushing and pulling, as I do have quite a bit of paint on here now, I can actually kind of start manipulating those colors. And I'm bringing my sky lower than what I feel my mountain will be, of course, because, you know, I never know exactly how my mountain's where it's going to land. So I want to make sure that this is pushed back behind it. I just thought, you know, it takes me back to picturing, like, used to watch Bob Ross, of course, on PBS, and he'd always do his mountains with his palette knife, and it would always look so effortlessly. And I thought, well, you know what? This might be, although this is not the size palette knife that I would use to do a mountain, I would prefer to use something more like this, you know, because I could actually like get that shape in and scrape. But this is what we have. This is what we're using. And that's okay. All right. Now I think I'm lightening this up a little bit here because, and I'll probably see, I'm going to have to keep, I hope I don't go through the whole tube of white paint here, but you never know. All right. want to lighten this edge up just a little bit because I want there to be a good separation when I put my mountain right in front of this. Okay, we're going to let that be for now. I need to show you, make sure I tip that. You guys see that pretty well? It's just a bunch of marks, right? Just kind of bunch staying in that, you know, circular. That's going to be too dark. I don't want to touch it with that. Cleaning off my palette knife again. And you might even have to dip that in some water if it starts to get a little too there. There was just a rough spot there that I didn't like. All right. Now I want some of this purple. I want some of this to be bringing in some of my darkest gray. I'm going to bring in a little black. Let's desaturate that. There we go. Well, I'm liking that much better. Just thinking of the tones that I've got going on here. That's really, so once I had my purple that I liked, bringing in some of my darker gray value that I had made, and even a little bit of black, and just mixing that up. Now again, if this is not mixed perfectly, if this gives me some marks that are, you know, a mixture of the colors, it's fine. All right, I'm going to start, I think, right about here. And I'm just going to pull that out. And I'm going to pull that out. Starting to get a mountain shape in there. All right, and I want another one to be right about here. And bring that one down. All right, maybe I'm mix it some more, same way. Bring in that gray. And stuff is drying in the studio so fast today. Wow. And now it is only like 35 degrees outside, but it's drying quick in here. So again, now when I mix this one up, I don't mind if it's not exactly perfect. I know it's the same purple, so it's going to be a value of the color I already have down here. If it's not the same, it's fine. We're going to come back and do so much more on this. And you see, now, and how do I get that? Let me just see if I can turn this sideways and let you guys get a better look. When I'm using a palette knife and I want to just kind of make a little bit of these, you know, suggestive marks where maybe some of that white is going to show through, I'm just going to touch this, coming in, if you can see, I'm coming in at like a 45-degree angle almost. Does that? No, I don't know. I'm coming in at like a 45-degree angle. So my knife is not flat. It's about here. And just barely touching as I pull, and it's going to leave some of that color, and it's going to skip and leave some white marks. And that's okay. And now I'm just going to take some of that paint, just kind of move it around. Same with over here. Okay. So there is some of my base color on my mountains. Now I want that to dry. I could work completely wet on wet. I could come back with the white and maybe we'll just do it. We'll just do it. Let's go wet on wet. The whole thing. Whatever happens, happens. Throw caution to the wind. Okay, so I would have had two choices. I could have let this dry and then come back over it with white. But I'm thinking if I just do it wet on wet, then when I come back with the white, some of it is going to stay nice and bright white. Some of it is going to turn probably a more lavender as it blends with the purple. And either way, that's all going to work great for me. So this is hard. If I was on my big flat palette, what I would do with this is I would take and I would just try to load the edge of my knife, but it's really hard to just load up the edge of your knife working on this thing. That's right. I just have, see, I have more on my edge here. All right, snowing. Snow is landing on the mountains. I'm going to start with the back one first, because as I pull this one, I'm going to want it to be further, closer to us. I'm barely skimming it over the surface. And see, I'm to the point where it's like I don't have any more paint that's wanting to touch off. And I just got a mark up there. So guess what? My mountain just ended up with a different shape. And that's all right. Kind of pulled off. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. And I'm just kind of letting these mix and mingle. Some areas are staying darker. I am going to clean this off. Because I'm cleaning it off because I want the white to be fresh again. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be mixed with my purple. That's probably better way of describing what I'm saying or trying to say. All right. I'm thinking we got a little snow. And I'm just barely touching. See, I just have, that white is just on that tip now. And I'm just going to set it. Get that, those snow-capped peaks on the mountains. All right. And I'm not worried about anything that I get that like I touched and brought some of that down here. I'm not worried about it. Some of this into my other mountain. There we go. Definitely the impression of a mountain. You can figure out what that is. All right, now for this guy. Okay, so on here, and I'm actually thinking, because my storm's coming this way, I'm going to put my white on this side, but I think I'm going to come back with gray and just do some gray on this side, right? This is shadowing. Everything coming at this way is the storm's coming in, so it's going to be darker. Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's what's going on in my little world. Just letting my knife barely touch this panel. And it is flexible, but it's a bit long. It's a bit longer. So it's like the knife is bigger than I would have wanted for a canvas this size. And the brush is smaller than I would have wanted for a canvas this size. But it's all good. We're going to make it work. A little bit of purple got into that. So that gray is actually going to have a little bit of purple in it already. Fine. So there. Now you see I'm actually more of like a gray value versus the white. Okay. Get a little more of my brighter white in here. I just touched a little bit more of my purple color that I used when I first put my mountains down. Just wanted to darken a little bit of this up over here. Okay, in addition, I'm going to bring in, because I said it's coming this way, and I'm having my lighter stuff on the left side. I'm going to actually, this palette is drying way too fast. So I will say that is at my studio. Have you guys used these before? Do Amsterdam acrylics naturally just dry very quickly? I don't know. They are for me at the moment. I've used a lot of white in this painting. That's okay. All right, there. Let's just get some more. Get some more shadow to this side. I'm just doing a little blending out at the base. Just in preparation for what's coming next. You guys do that? You think, oh, that looks great. Then you touch it some more and then you mess everything up. Yeah, it's like that. And there was a spot of black that was on my palette knife. And again, it's okay. Just blend it in, pull it out. Again, got it again. Because, you know, why clean it off if you just notice it happen? No, keep going. All right, guys, I'm coming at this one last time. And you just keep playing with yours until you get something that looks, that you like. And again, I'm not making a mistake. I'm wiping that off, coming back and grabbing more white because it is blending in and I am getting different values. But if I go, when I made that mistake last time, I went back to my tray and had the darker values on there. So then when I came back, it was even darker and it was just disappearing. It was becoming the same as what was already on there. That's not what I wanted. Maybe there's some extra peaks over here. All right. It's like maybe I blended too much. Again, I'm not wanting, this is darker than I want it to be right now, but that's okay. Because I planned it, ooh, great English, and I planned on pulling some of this lighter color down over it. Because right in the distance, our colors are going to be more soft and muted. How can we use a whole tube of white paint on one little bitty painting? Just like this, folks, just like this. And the thing is, I'm not getting that skimming that I was hoping for, which I know I would have got if I would have let it dry. Because it would have been dried, so the acrylic would have hardened underneath, and then it would have caught like those, you know, valleys, those highs and those lows. It would have just picked up on them. And your knife would just skip across them. You could get some really cool textures that way. But I'm also not minding the way that it's working now. From touching the darker purples over here, I actually have a nice soft lavender color that formed on my palette knife. And I'm going to bring some of that right over here. And again, so much time, like I want these to be pushed back. I don't want this to be, you know, it's not my focus. Well, of course, I really don't want much of anything being a focus. I want this to be snowing and let's see. We'll see. We will see. What's the worst that can happen? So that had a little bit of time to start to set up and get a little drier. I actually like the effect I was starting to get off of that. It almost gives me the impression like there's a peak here and then it's like there's a ridge and then there's another one back there. All right. So all the voices are screaming, stop touching it. I probably should listen and stop touching it. Although you see, I'm still going. I can't help myself. Guys, there are my mountains. I'm done. Not messing with them anymore. Look at that. Okay, and again, I did not bring my sky down quite low enough here, which is okay. It's all right. What I can do, I can take this guy, grab a little bit of a lighter color, and maybe just sort of touch some in. Again, I'm not sticking with like the way I put it on with my palette knife. I'm just tapping to just kind of fill in that little space, that little gap where my mountains didn't cover, so that it looks like it's part of that sky back there. Okay. And on that same note, I'm seeing over here, like maybe I need a little bit extra. So again, I'm just going to come in with my brush and do this. Getting a little bit lighter value. Because again, I was working lighter going that way. Yeah. As I get near the edge of that mountain, just kind of tapping in. And that's going to be nice and light going that way, so I don't want to go too dark over here. This brush has got one little stray, it must have got caught outside when they were putting the little cap on. You know how you get them and they have the plastic, round plastic part you take off that protects your brush while it is shipping to you. I gotta say, I'm kind of liking my angry sky here. I have to consciously make the effort not to say, ooh, I want a cloud here and make a cloud, like thinking that this is very abstract. Like, I'm not going to have any clearly defined, it's clouds. Your mind will fill it in. Your mind will know that what's going on. And it'll just complete the pieces of the story. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. I'm just kind of smoothing if there's any areas where maybe it was missing, there was a gap. And again, I'm starting to work into the darker area. So I'm going to darken this up. May come in here, but I'm going to go right back over that because I want it to be darker. My storm's coming from this way. I'm liking the kind of purple color that are in those mountains. Oh, I need to darken this up. Moving to the other side, it needs to be darker. My first impression of this brush, I like it. I mean, it's hard for me because I like to work more realistic. So it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, I love this when I'm not painting in the manner in which, this is not how I would normally paint. So yeah, it's hard to say, oh yeah, this is beautiful, I love it. But the way that the brush feels, I like. I like the way that it's putting down the paint. Darken that up just a little bit again. A little bit more. Darken it up even more. I'm gonna get some really good dark stuff going on just out here. Like, I definitely want it to feel like that storm. When you look out there and it's so dark and you just see that darkness coming, you're like, oh, that's going to be a storm. I want to give that feeling. Darkness is coming. Bad weather. Now I'm just tapping because there are so many layers of paint here that I can just tap and it'll start to blend them. I don't want to go too much because then I'm going to have all the same, it's all going to become the same value, which I don't want. If something gets a little dark, I can just come back in with a lighter value and just touch, but not really mix a lot. Very hard, or I should say very easy to overwork it. Sometimes it's very hard to listen to yourself and stop when your instinct says that's enough. All right, and we'll show you in a second. Like, I do have areas that are kind of speckled and they're a lot lighter. You'll see here, and I think that is just going to add to the effect when I make the snow. And I'm still working out in my head with these two instruments how I am going to do that, but we will make it work. I think it's a little too light up here. There we go. Blend some of that in. There. Okay, I'm going to stop fidgeting with mine as I touch my paint again, I say. Because seriously, I could just go on like forever. But I think we have what we are looking for here. So this purple is very muted. You can see some of this, like there's some darker purple in there. But it's very kind of muted. So now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to try to like smooth some of this stuff out. Because now that I just have this little bit down here, this is going to be fine. It's going to work just fine. And I'm just rinsing out those big globs of paint out of my brush. Tap that off. I'm going to have to cut that. There's a hair. There is a wild hair sticking out here. Now, if I come at this, the hair is sticking. There it is. You can see on the black. The hair is sticking that way. So my scissors curve away. I'm just going to come in and I want to make sure this one goes on top of that one. So this is going to be as close as I can ever get to my brush. So with that hair, if I can see it on there again, it's right there. I'm going to just come in. Gone. Finally gone. Sorry, but that was driving me crazy. And that will, a straight hair like that will, it can mess with your painting. All right. I'm just taking some of this that was a little more, the white that had a little bit of the gray in it. And actually, well, we'll see. We'll make that decision here in a second. That's going to be too bright. I'm going to want to pop. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm shaking this whole table. I also was talking to Lou that I need to get my rigging attached in some way that's not attached to my desk, because that is another way that I feel that I can improve the quality of the videos for you. I wonder, is that gonna, that's gonna blow it out on you guys. My lighting, I'm in that time of the day, like when I live stream, my lighting's gonna kind of change up a little bit. Let me just double check our, all right, we're says we're good. If you guys don't know how this is with a grayscale to know, when I look at this, I can see white, then I can see all the different values. If this was overexposed, for example, watch this block. See it turn white? See it turn white? There we go. See how overexposed? Every time those blocks further down, they become white. That's how you know you're even more and more overexposed. So, fun tip of the day if you're trying to record videos. You don't need a light meter to be able to tell when you are or are not overexposed. The next thing I'm working on is getting rid of the glare so that you guys will be able to really see what's going on. So I'm just taking straight white this time and brushing that in here. And again, this brush is so small. It's not exactly what I would be choosing to use. I was doing some fine details maybe, but for this, now I'm pulling out. If some of that mountain comes over this, it's fine. I'm just working up here. This is where I'm going to put in, I think I want like a row of trees in the distance, which is what's going to help push these mountains really further back, because we're going to know that they're trees. We're going to know that they're trees because of their shape, their general shape, but I'm not putting any details. No details will be put in. Just trying to lighten this up a little bit. There we go. It's not going to be real dark. Right? It's further in the distance. It's not going to be real dark. Right. Now I need to decide what color are our trees going to be. And I think that maybe if we stick with our whole, we're kind of getting, we're kind of monochromatic here, and I don't mind it. We do have the purples, so maybe why don't we see how it looks. I mean, if we don't like it, we just we paint over it. This purple is definitely too bright. There's has to completely get desaturated. So again, I'm going to mix in some of my black. And this is too dark. If I was doing this in my foreground, I could do that. But this is not in my foreground. These are much further back. So now that I've desaturated the purple, now I'm going to come in with the white. I'm going to really lighten up that value. And I want to lighten it a little bit more than that. I want just something that's going to stand out on top of this, but not by a lot. So I just keep going, just keep adding a little at a time. You know what? I'd rather mix it 3 or 4 times and get it right than have it go completely the wrong way and then I can't use it. All right, now another thing, I just got that paint all up in that brush. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on my actual brush. I'm just kind of holding that and pulling it off the palette knife. Okay. Let's see how they look. So I'm going to make trees in the distance. See how I'm going to make those trees? Simple. I'm holding my brush straight up and down. I want varying sizes and widths. I'm just tapping. Right? These trees are going to be way back. You're not going to see forms and shapes. I just want to keep my lines nice and skinny and just keep going along. Tapping a straight line. Some areas are taller than others. You see that? I'm starting to make a nice stand of trees back there. And I'm just going to continuing along. I can space these out. And if I skip, like here, you'll see I skipped, like some are up there, some are down here. Well, now that just looks like there's multiple trees. They're moving further and further back. And I even think that this could be a little bit lighter. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to solve that problem here in a minute. Like some of these back here, I think could be lighter. Because I'm going to bring these trees forward. Because remember, this mountain's coming in. I want that to be pushed even further back. So now I'm kind of sticking slightly further down, like in line with what this was here. I can even have a couple that come, like maybe there's a stand that goes like this, and it kind of tucks in. Who knows? Who knows? What's it like on your mountain or at the base of your mountain? Again, keeping my load of my paint and just tapping it. So I just get a little bit on the tips. I do not have a ton of paint on my brush right now. Because as those bristles if they splay out a little bit, that is just going to help me get these shapes or the impression of trees. Maybe some go up near the edge of this mountain. So I think here, like East Coast, our trees, we've got trees growing all the way up the mountains. Like you look at our fall foliage, the whole mountain just looks like so many, many, many colors because there are trees all over it. The trees go all the way up the mountain. I can put tap in a few here and there. Maybe they're going up, leaving some spaces. But if you go to, say, out west in the U.S., the Rocky Mountains, those mountains look totally different than the mountains that we have. Now, let me just say, as I did this one, I kind of pulled it out, and I'm thinking that I want my trees to kind of tuck back. So I'm going to continue with these as I go. It just felt like, hey, maybe these trees should tuck back in here, have maybe a little clearing, and then maybe my trees start back again, maybe over here. I'm just going to kind of mix it up. I have an idea for this space. I think you guys might like it. And while I show you the image of the painting in the beginning, of course, I filmed that after. That's future me talking to you at the beginning. I had no idea what this painting was going to look like when I sat down to actually paint it this afternoon. I had a general thought of what I wanted, but wasn't positive what exactly we were going to get. So future me has already shown you what this looks like, and I hope that you like it. But I just had an idea of what we can do in here. Maybe there's actually some trees up here. I'm just doing just a few little tiny, few taps. And this is very close to that dark color that's in there, so it's just kind of blending right in along with it. What I can do is grab a little bit more purple. Let's try it. What do we think? I don't know. We won't know till we do it. I love experimenting. If this is, I'm not doing a commission, I'm just making art that's for my enjoyment. I love experimenting. That is definitely how we grow. It's how we grow as artists. It's how we learn. There are so many things that I finally figured out because I was just like, we'll just throw some of this on here and see what happens. There we go. Yeah, maybe those come down like that. Maybe there's a ridge right there. A little bit more purple. Purpling this up a little bit more. So if you guys try this one, I would love to see how it comes out. Definitely be sure to tag me if you go share it over there on MeWe or even on Facebook. I do have a Clark Fine Art artist group on Facebook that, has not grown close. I really stopped using a lot of Facebook because I'm not very happy with the platform itself, but we won't get into that. All right. So I don't use it that often. I'm not on Facebook that often, but I do check it out. So, okay. So now I'm just tapping. You see, I've turned my brush. So from going straight at it like this, I've now turned my brush and I'm just kind of tapping at the base. I got a little bit too much there, and that's all right. I can come back over top that. Won't matter. Okay. Just kind of bringing that out, kind of to like a little point, right? I want to tuck that back, the rest of that back in there. And I've also let this get, with the purple, this has gotten a little darker. And I don't mind that at all. In fact, I think I'm going to add a little bit more purple. I'm really kind of liking the purple coming in here. Not exactly what I would have pictured. I was thinking more like blues, but I'm definitely liking the purple. I'm just bringing a little bit more right here that are a little bit more purple. They're closer to us, and we're getting a little bit more color. Still, by no means do they have any really defined form. I tapped a little too hard, and that one pushed down. Pushed down a little further than I wanted, but I'm going to come back over this. We're going to come over with some more white because we had to make our snow that leads up towards us in the foreground. Now, back here, I said, as it went back, I wanted this to actually get lighter. So I'm going to take some more of my white, and this color here is what I used doing these trees. So I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. So take a spot that's a bit lighter. And then I'm going to come back here and do a few more. Just kind of pushing them in. If I go in between some of these others, that's fine too. Right? I'm making really small marks. And actually, I think I want some of this to be even lighter. I want another value lighter than this, so I'm going lighter. Yeah. This is getting me kind of close to what was on that part of the mountain. And so they're just going to kind of blend away into that background. To the point that all of a sudden they're just so far away, we can't even really make them out anymore. And if I had some that were way back there, they'd be the same way, right? Okay. Love it. Love it. Yes. Yes. Now, I'm just going to take this same color that's on my brush. I'm just coming to the front of where the stand of trees was. And I'm bringing a little bit of that color through it. And versus it being trees, this is just going to kind of look like some shadows and such on the snow. All right. I also think this might be a good color for some shadow in our snow. So you know what? I'm just going to like throw some of this in here and there. I'm being really, you see how I'm being really scattered with that? Very loose. Right? Very loose. My brush is on its side. I'm barely touching. So when I come back over this with more white, while that might show through, it's just going to look like shadows in the snow, hills and valleys. Okay, I was talking about this little spot back here, and you know what I think we need back there? I think way back there, let's take some of our dark purple, sticking with the colors we've been using. I definitely want it desaturated, so I'm going to come over here where my black is, set that purple down. I'm just going to grab a tiny bit of black, just a tiny bit. Just want to deepen that up, just desaturate it a little bit. All right. And now, here we go. Back in here, I see, this is very hard to do with this filbert brush. I would definitely be using a much smaller brush. But being very careful. Yep, back there, I think there's a cabin. Somebody lives right back at the foot of that mountain, because, you know, I think I am channeling my inner Bob Ross at this moment, and that's what we're doing. And, you know, of course, he's going to have a snowed roof. So I am going to take my brush, grab some of that white, and I'm just going to touch it. Let's see. I'm thinking right back that way. Pull that down. And then this side, we would just, and I got way too much. Let's see if we can pull that up. That's hard. Maybe the palette knife would do better. All right, let me touch up my cabin again. Touching up my cabin. It's hard. I don't want to make this cabin too big. All right, let's see. Let's see. Can I grab my palette knife? I just have the tiniest bit of white on my tip. I want to make a line for the roof on that side and bring the roof out on this side. That is the wonkiest cabin if I've ever seen one. Absolutely, it being that far away, I would absolutely want, yeah, I would definitely use a finer brush to do that with. The thing is not working out so well. I'm going to try to just grab with the very corner. The filbert doesn't have a corner, so, but I'm trying. Might have been a little too ambitious of a goal to try to do a little cabin. That's all right. I've got that on there and it's too much. It's too big for his roof. But I can come back with my darker color in a moment and thin everything out. So we're going with it. Maybe down here. We got some snow around the ground. All right, so while that's setting, so I can come back and darken that area up. If you look, I just got my little tiny cabin way back there. I'm going to, my water's filthy, so that does not help when you want to do snow. Just going to take some more of my white. Let's fluff up get our snow going in our foreground. And see, it is showing through. So by doing that, and then I come back over, I'm going to get, oh, it'll just appear like little valleys, little hills, little shadows in my snow. Now, some of my trees look like they're pointed, I got like these spikes downwards, and I can come back in, just kind of smooth some of that out, right? To give like a line to my trees. And what's happening is, as I'm doing that, the marks that went down lower are actually just kind of looking like shadows of my tree in the snow. And I like it. So I will say that this white, which says that it is titanium white, says that it's opaque. I've used titanium whites that are much more opaque than this, because I am getting a lot showing through, which I don't mind right now. And as long as I know that that's how a color is going to perform, or a certain brand of paint, I don't mind that either, because then when I want that effect, that's the paint I'm going to grab. So yeah, I'm liking it. I am not minding at all. So again, over here, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to come in and kind of decide where I want my tree line. And since I know that I am going to get the underneath showing through, now it just looks like maybe the light from back here is casting some shadow forward on those trees. And if I want it to be less, just tap some more on top of it. Do another layer. There we go. We're getting there. Maybe I've got a lot more lavender feel over here where it's darker, and I'm thinking I still had this color here from when I did my other trees. I think I'm gonna mix up a really pale lavender color, and maybe get some of that into my snow. Yep. Just kind of going where I put the marks before, picking out the ones that I really like for kind of shadows or, hills and valleys. And I'm just going with it, adding more. But I do like the lavender color coming into play here. I'm going to scrub that out a little bit, make it kind of blend. And I'm kind of blending at my edges. And be careful where I put my fingers, just hold it with my fingernail. I'm leaving a fingernail mark on my paint, because the paint is nice and thick on this. I don't know how long this one's going to take to dry, but my palette's any indication, shouldn't be too bad. Just kind of blending that out. Then I got to figure out how I'm going to do. I'm just making this, going back to that lavender color and adding more white so I can lighten it up even more. Just so I can throw some more values into my snow. I didn't realize how much time. I was just having fun painting with you guys today. I didn't realize how long this went. So I will try to hurry up and wrap this up. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure you leave me a comment. And again, if you do paint it, I would love to see it. All right, I've got to touch up the dark spot on my cabin. I'm going to put some snow on this, and we're going to call this one done. And what did you guys think about that? Was it abstract? Is it abstract? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. I just so want... Ugh. I really want, like a detailed brush. I can't get what I want with this. Like if I grabbed, I have another brush right here, very detailed. That would be perfect. It would make it happen. Trying to be true to what came in the box, right? What if these were the only supplies you had? Could you do it? Yes, of course you could do it. To kind of go at it very slowly to see where you're actually making your marks. All right, guys. I think that's our cabin. I think so. I would love to give him a chimney and make some smoke, but we said abstract. We are not going details here. We're not going details. Although I could just like tap in. This is where, you know, you get to run that risk of overworking. I say as I could continue to do. Right? Like maybe, just maybe. Get that a little lighter. Quite that light. Yep. Of course, how am I going to get a chimney that tiny on there? I don't know. Will it work? All right. So I put the tiniest bit of paint on my palette knife, and I'm just going to touch it in there. And that's his chimney. Good enough. Good enough. It's not exactly where I want it, but you know, hey, I said good enough. Let it go. Let it go, Ange. There we go. Oh, now he's got a chimney. It's going to be too dark. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it with that. It's too dark. And isn't this the part where we could just, our painting could go on, and it's like, oh, can we have details? But sometimes we want details where maybe we shouldn't have details. But that's my little smoke in my chimney. I would love for him to have a light on in the window or something, but I think we're pushing it. Again, if I had the ability to use my detail brush, you know, I might put some little snow and stuff down there, and let's see, like, that's going to be too much paint. This is small. There we go. I'm just tapping some of the white paint over the edge. So I'm putting the house in the snow. There. I would love for him to have a door, but you know what? Have a door, have a door, have a window, have some lights on. Want to be able to see inside his little home. And I would do that with just a tiny little dot because it's so far away. But again, I don't have that ability. Now, let's see if we can make snow so that we can call this guy done. How am I going to do it? Well, I got some water. I'm going to thin down this white paint. I'm going to thin that down, which it's looking like a slightly grayed out version of itself. And I know that's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind if it's even slightly lavendered version, right? Because this could be in the distance. I could do this more than once. I'm going to move this so that I can test this and make sure. And I bet you I'm about to make a mess all over my desk. All right, I'm moving this for just a second because I want to test. See, I want to see, am I going to get, yeah. All right, that could work. That could work. Let's try it. Let's try it. Oh yeah, I better cover this. Oh. I'm going to cover up above on my desk because it never works for me when I do it that way. Guys, I've got paint going everywhere. I think I need a little more. Well, I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to be too thick. But I do want to be able to, that was too much paint. Right at the very end, too much. Pull a little bit of this in. Let's see. This isn't exactly the kind of brush I would do this with, but no, that's not working. I was hoping I could pull my brush through it, or my palette knife through it, and cause it to flick down that way, but that answer is a hard no. Not enough liquid. This is not the brush I would normally use for this, so definitely not getting the results I normally would. And this is not how I normally do it. But I'm going to beat the heck out of this thing and see how much paint I can get to splatter so that we can call it finished. Oh yeah. So this nice new black blotter that I got for the desk. Oh my goodness. And it's not fine enough. I have nothing that has a skinny enough little point that I could just speckle, you know, and oh my gosh, I've got white paint on my monitor. So yeah, that's not good. So it's splattering up too, not getting down where I want it. All right, guys, well, you are not restricted to the box that I am, you know, supplies that I am restricted to. So I encourage you, oh, that's not good. I've got to wash this monitor off quick before they dry. I encourage you to use your favorite splattering technique to actually get snow onto your painting. All right, guys, I'm going to keep at this, and I will pop a picture again of the finished painting up here when we're done. And yeah, let me know if you do this. Tag me. I definitely want to see. I'm definitely not getting the results I want onto my painting with this. Not the right brush. So I'm going to keep at it. This is a very slow process. I don't want to make you watch all of that in real time. You get the point. Splatter your painting. Don't leave your brush sitting in water. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish splattering that, and then I will come back and I will show you what I'm going to use a Posca marker for. Wow, and this is all like, this looks like it feels like it's dry, but I can see this is definitely very wet. And just so you can see the arch? So just by painting on this with these acrylics, this board does not stay completely flat. It arched, like when you get too much water on your watercolor paper. You know what I mean? It just, from the moisture. I like the board. I plan on taking my Posca, well, it might be dry enough to do that now. Let's see. Let's prime that. There we go. Okay, and guys, I did what it said not to do. I shook it with the cap off. Luckily, I didn't throw paint everywhere, but I did shake it with the cap off. All right, here we go. It makes very easy work of signing. Yeah. I still have to add some more snow. But again, that was a slow going process. I'm just going to keep adding. But there you have it. There is my abstract landscape. Is it abstract? Oh, I guess. I don't know. What do you think? It is, it isn't. It doesn't matter to me because you know what? I had fun. I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, that's all that matters. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I will definitely make sure that there are links to every one of these products in the description below. Of course, they are affiliate links, and using them does not cost you any more, but it definitely helps the channel. And I appreciate you anytime you choose to use them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Keep creating, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.